So you have voted and decided that we are trying Milo's recipe. We have condensed milk, we have molasses. Let's see what happens. Hello and welcome back to another Beaver DIY day. So you guys voted, and without a shadow of a doubt, the winner is Milo's condensed milk rum, or rum, not run, rum. This recipe was sent in by Milo. He is one of the moderators, or one of the original members of the Mampoer and Moonshine group on Facebook. I will post a link down in the description that will take you to the group if you would like to join. There's some fun recipes and stuff that come up on that group. He said I need to try this recipe, and I posted a poll on YouTube and you guys voted, and the result is you want to see it. I'm very interested in seeing what is going to happen if we start adding something that is milk based into, or dairy based into the wash. Yeah, we'll talk a bit more about what I think after I've done some research regarding what might happen. At the end of the video, what I'm going to be doing is I will be giving feedback on the cognac that we made the other day with the Bootleggers yeast and the recipe from Bootleggers. So yeah, what we will be doing is we'll be tasting it, and I will be giving you guys some feedback on the flavor. So if you want to see that, will be at the end of the video, or close to the end of the video, where I'll be doing that. Let's put this to side and get on to the recipe. Okay, so before we get into talking about what's going to be happening and what's going into the recipe, what I want to do now is I just want to get my sugars. Because Milo didn't send instructions on how to do this recipe, I'll be doing it exactly the same way I do any of my rum recipes. I will be inverting my sugars. So if you want to see a video on the invert sugars, I'll post a link to a video up top here. But here's a quick recap on what inverting, or how to invert your sugars. So step one, add your sugar to some warm or close to near boiling water. Okay, for those that just saw the B-roll, what we did is we added 3 kilograms of sugar into, I would guesstimate, about 2 liters of water. So I just added just enough water to dissolve the sugars in, as well as 500 grams of this molasses. The ones I'm using is the unsulfured sweetened molasses, but any other molasses will do. So it's 500 grams of that. I will not be adding in this just yet. I'll also explain a little bit more why later. And then what you saw me do is I added about a 1/4 teaspoon of citric acid. For those that are wondering, the citric acid will now invert the sugars. Like I said, if you want to see a video on what the process is, and why I invert my sugars, I'll post a link up here. It basically just means that the yeast has an easier time to chew up those sugars. And as we all know that a rum wash, or a molasses based rum wash, is quite a tricky task for your yeast to chew through. Now let's get into a little bit of research. First up, when I saw the recipe from Milo saying that I need to use condensed milk, or a sweetened condensed milk in this recipe, I thought to myself, that must be crazy. Adding a dairy product into your wash, that's just going to cause all kinds of problems, like sour milk, or maybe like separation, or I don't know, something like that. But then I started delving into lambic beers and that type of stuff, and the lactobacillic acid, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, that is active in milk, and as well as this condensed milk, there is some lactic bacillic acid left over. So not all of it has been denatured or removed from this condensed milk. So at the end of the day, That's why I'm not adding it right in the beginning into that boiling water over there, so that I'm not killing off the last remaining little bit of the lactobacillic acid. What the lactobacillic acid is going to do is very similar to what it does in a lambic beer. It is going to cause my wash to turn sour. Now, by adding that sour element into it is very much like when you do a UJSSM or a sour mash. By adding in that souring agent, your wash will have a nice sour tinge to it. That lactobacillic acid inside of it is going to cause some nice funky flavors to come out. If it does anything to the mouthfeel, I'll give you guys some feedback on that. But I might think that that creaminess of this might be pulling through, but only time will tell once we are done distilling it. So for this episode, it's only making the wash. So now, while we're waiting for the sugars to invert, about 15 minutes left to go, I'm quickly just going to do my yeast starter, or not my yeast starter, I'm just going to rehydrate my yeast. Step number 1, I'm going to do my 2-fer combo again. This is the bread yeast that was kindly donated to the channel by my friend Oki. And over here is our high foam brewer's yeast. So it's the NCP brand, for anybody that's wondering. Why am I not using the Bootleggers yeast? Because the recipe did not call for any specific yeast, and this is the kind of yeast we have access to. Keeping true once again to the recipe as I get it, I'll keep true to the ingredients as well. If you guys want to see a version where I use the Bootleggers, or compare the Bootleggers to this yeast concoction of mine, pop a comment down in the description and I will gladly do a comparison video for that. So what we have here is just a quick rehydration of the yeast. We're going to let this go for about 20 minutes or 15 minutes up until we are ready to pitch it. Now, everything has been sanitized, and I've been receiving a ton of questions regarding what I use as my sanitary liquid. Pretty simple. Before I start any brew, before I start any process, every single thing that I will be using, touching, including my yeast packets, my scissors, my knives, my fruit, literally everything that is going to come into contact with anything that I will be using, including my hands, gets washed in a bucket filled with jig water. So it is about 2 cups of jig, so 2 little of the jig proppies into a bucket of water. Nice lukewarm water, and everything gets wiped down before I start my brewing process. And then during the whole process, as I go along, if I feel the need to re-sanitize something that's been standing around, like the funnel, I will re-sanitize before I pour liquid through it and all that. I use this no rinse sanitizer. This jug was washed with jig water, and then it was rinsed afterwards to remove the jig from the inside, as well as the funnel, as well as the pot and everything. For those that have been asking the question, I use jig for the main sanitation, meaning everything that needs to be clean, and then I use a no rinse sanitizer. I'll post a link down in the description for a couple of guys where you can pick up the no rinse sanitizer and a couple of names out there. That's what I use. It's been working so far. Any questions on that or any further questions, please pop me an email, or alternatively pop me an email. I'll send you my WhatsApp number and then we can chat on WhatsApp. So it has now been 20 minutes and that stuff at the back there should be ready for us to transfer into our fermenter. What we're going to do next is, as always, because we're using plasticky thingies, I'm going to be adding some cold water in first, and then I'll be adding my hot liquid on top of that to prevent this from melting. So quick tip, just make sure that if you ever use plastic fermenters or anything like that, or even glass ones, you don't want that thermal shock of hot and cold, or adding hot and then adding cold into it. Rather add cold liquid and then slowly start adding your hot liquid into that, so there's no thermal shock, or in my case, that this thing starts crumpling in on itself. So yeah, first up, let's add some cold water. But before we do that, as I said, This has now been standing outside for a little bit of time, and I'm scared that any buggies have got onto it. So just a quick spritz and a dry, and a quick spritz and a rinse. Okay, as well as the cap. For everybody that has been asking, what water do I use? Do I use tap water? The answer is no. This is borehole water. I don't know what the English word for it is. I think it's borehole. In Afrikaans is the boorgat. So it's borehole water that I use, and it is nice and clean, and it has a quite unique taste to it. So that is what I use. I don't use tap water. Can you use tap water? Yes, if you are willing to drink your tap water, you are more than welcome to use it in your fermentation. Five liters of water. What I want to add quickly now is the juice of one lemon, but these are two small ones. So normally one lemon's juice is enough to get my pH of my water down. So do you have to add 2 lemons? The answer is no. It is for me to get my pH of my water down to a desirable level for my yeast to grow and dominate this whole wash. So how many lemons do you have to add? Get some pH strips, test the pH of your water, add a little bit of lemon juice. So what I do is, whenever I start with a recipe, I calculate it on 1 liter volumes, and all I do then is, once I have the ratios for 1 liter, I just scale it up to whatever liters I will be doing it in. So if you want to make a 20 liter wash, all I do is multiply it by 20, 50 liter 50 times by 50, so simple as that. And for all my American friends out there, if you want me to convert these recipes into your freedom units, please pop a comment down below and I will gladly convert it over to freedom units. Okay, so now it's time to add the hot liquid, and as always, be careful when doing it, because hot liquids are hot and they do burn. Before I add it in, I just want to give it one quick last stir, and as always, have to make a mess. Okay, so before I fill it up all the way, what I want to do now is, seeing that this temperature has now dropped down to where the enzymes in the condensed milk will no longer be killed off, I'm going to add my condensed milk in, and then I am going to stir the living crap out of this wash, so I can incorporate number one, some oxygen, and number two, make sure anything that's not dissolved is dissolved. It's probably one of the weirdest things I've ever added to a brew, so I'm hoping for the best. Milo has been doing this for a rather long time, so I do believe he won't send me a recipe that he knows or thinks will go wrong. So if he says it's good, I'm pretty sure it will be good. But that is exactly why we are here and this channel exists, so we can give some stuff a try and a taste, and I can tell you guys whether you should try it at home or not. Time to stir it up. So my ingenious stirrer I have is a stainless steel rod with a couple of cable ties strapped to the bottom of it and a wood stopper. Okay, so with this all mixed up, time to top it up with water and then take a gravity reading and test the temperature. Don't forget to test the temperature. Okay, time to thief a little bit out of this and test the gravity. So I'm either going to make a big mess or I'm going to get this right. So hold thumbs for not making a mess. Okay, so we are on a original gravity of 1070 or 1.070, and that should, once all fermented out, give us roughly 11% ABV if we get it down to about 1 or 1.000. Okay, so as you just saw, our starting gravity is 1070. That should give us 11% ABV. Now 11% ABV is right in the ballpark of what this yeast will be able to give us. Remember, it's normal brewer's yeast. I will be keeping it at roughly 25 degrees C or as close as I can to that for the next couple of days and seeing how fast this can ferment up. Did I add any nutrients into this? No, I did not. No vitamin tablets, no DAP, none of that type of stuff. The recipe didn't call for it, so I didn't use it. If it requires it, I will inform you guys when we move over to the distillation side in a couple of days when that video gets uploaded, whether I did anything to this wash to get it to ferment out. Now it's time to quickly add the yeast. And for those that are still sticking around, a quick feedback on the flavor and the smell of the Bootleggers cognac. I've had a couple of guys asking me, number one, force aging videos. That will come, so I will do a force aging video on the result of this rum. But the question that was asked was, how did the cognac actually turn out? On the previous video I said that the initial stuff that came off the still was sweet, fruity, had a bit of the cook apple kind of flavors to it. When we went into the aging process, this was forced age for 3 days. So you can see the color. I'll put a video up here for you to see the color nice and close up. So that's 3 days. Color doesn't actually indicate that it was fully aged or anything like that. It has some nice color to it. The smell has drastically changed, and it's time to taste the flavor. So this will be the first time I will be tasting it after the first couple of days. On the nose, because we charred the chips in a foil packet, all that smoke, so that campfire smoke flavor is, I don't know, right on the nose. So the moment you open up this jar, the moment you get it close to your nose, you just smell campfire. So it smells literally like burnt wood. And then it has some sweet flavors on the back of the nose that wants to come through. So as you can see, or you might not be able to see, but it has a nice amber yellow, almost reddish tinge color to it. On the nose, once again, it has that campfire charcoal type of smell to it. So as for the flavor, first thing that hits your tongue is that bitter burnt wood. On the back of your tongue you start getting the sweet flavors coming through, but what has overwhelmed the palate is the wood char. So the wood char, or that smoky wood flavor, that is on the foreground, and it overpowers this whole flavor. What I will do is, in a couple of days, I think 2 or 3 more days, I will be taking out the wood, and then I will be letting it mellow out. So hopefully over a period of time, maybe 2-3 weeks, the rough burnt flavors will start pushing back and the sweet flavors will come out. If it doesn't, I will just add a little bit of the toasted wood in there to push back that burnt flavor, because I quite like the burnt flavor, but to push it back into the background a little bit and bring those sweet flavors out, so the burn notes and the smoke notes are more of a, how can we put it, more of an accent flavor than a actual full-on in-your-face flavor. That's my feedback on the cognac. For those who want to try it, I will not in the future be toasting my whole batch of chips in this method where I put it in a packet. I will be doing a small batch of it because I like the smoke flavor, but I will be toasting my chips and I will be adding those ones into the jar on a toasted level, a charred level, and then as well as the raw wood to get all those different contrasting flavors pulling through. because yours, it is now overpowered by smoke. Thank you once again very much for watching. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and if you feel the need, ring that bell so you can get notifications of every video that gets uploaded. So thank you very much and have a lekker day.